Okay, how are we doing out there? I know it's warm. I'm now honored to introduce this year's commencement speaker, Tim Harris. Overseeing Los Angeles Lakers business-related endeavors and marketing efforts for 16 years, Tim Harris brings more than 26 years of combined experience to the organization. He currently serves in a multifaceted role as President, Business Operations. Responsible for Lakers' day-to-day business operations, Harris oversees the team's broadcast, sponsorship, ticketing, community relations, game entertainment, and digital media departments. Tim Harris is a Bruin, and he received his degree in sociology from our department. Harris works closely with team president Jeannie Buss, helping maintain relationships with broadcast and corporate partners while having a hand in all Lakers marketing efforts. Adding to his extensive scope of responsibilities, Harris serves as a Lakers alternate governor, and he represents the club at team president meetings. Beginning his career working with Dr. Jerry Buss in 1990, Harris was tasked with promoting and marketing the team's arena at the time, the Great Western Forum. By 1995, after much success in his role, Harris would become vice president of marketing for the building. Following the sale of the Forum in 1997, Harris was responsible for managing the Lakers' transition out of Inglewood to the state-of-the-art Staples Center, as well as the new team training facility. At the conclusion of the club's move, Harris was brought on board to focus his efforts strictly on the Lakers, originally serving as vice president of sales and marketing. A standout soccer player at UCLA, Harris played 4 seasons as goalkeeper, 1980 to 83, earning second-team All-American honors in 1983, and finishing his career ranked 3rd on the school's career victories list. He was later named to the UCLA Athletic Department Hall of Fame as one of the school's 25 all-time greatest athletes. Harris went on to play 5 years professionally, 1984 to 1989, including 3 years for the Dr. Buss-owned Los Angeles Lasers of the Major Indoor Soccer League. He was also a member of the United States men's national soccer team in 1985. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you this year's commencement speaker, Tim Harris.
Morning, everyone. Good morning. Not good enough. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. There we go. Okay, before we get underway, a couple of housekeeping items. Climate check. Everybody warm enough? Anybody need an extra robe? Okay. You know, it's only fitting that I make a sociological observation as it pertains to class distinction. Shade? No shade. I also want to point out one more thing before I get underway, because I've been asked this a number of times. As Professor Hunt said, I wear quite a few hats for the Lakers, but I want to clear one thing up. The hat I will not wear is the one who makes the decision whether we draft a certain player from UCLA next week. So I wanted to get that out of the way. It's an incredible honor for me to be chosen to speak with you today. As I did my research on this role, I saw that the previous speakers is a pretty impressive list. And I have to be honest with you, I asked myself, why me? I was not exactly a stellar student, and I started to picture what the process was whereby I was chosen to join today and speak. And I kind of imagined Professor Hunt getting together his team of other professors to determine who's going to speak. And Professor Hunt says, you know, gang, we've had all these great speakers before. We've had all these wonderful people, outstanding students. But I think we're a little under-indexed in providing hope to those students who maybe didn't quite stand out. Can anybody in the room, this is Professor Hunt saying, can anybody in the room suggest someone who you just really don't remember? And it's quiet, you know, it's quiet. It's one of those uneasy silences that take place in meetings, and then sort of like a voice from out of the wilderness. You know, Timmerman sort of meekly raises his hand because for fear of being ridiculed, and he says, how about that Harris guy? You know, he's come speak to our classes before. He's got this kind of interesting thing that he talks about being interesting and interested and having to be both of them, and it's important to go through life. What about that Harris guy? And I got to tell you, Professor Hunt, that was one unremarkable student. And Hunt pauses for a second. Perfect. And he says to the room, nobody remembers him, right? We're trying to get somebody that nobody remembers. Nobody remembers this Harris guy, right? But he went on to do something, right? He left UCLA and he actually does something, works for a basketball team, correct? And everyone nods and he says, he's our guy. And you know what's better? The guy looks like a tank commander. So, thank you. You see, when I was here in the classroom setting, I didn't have a lot of confidence. I was, and I don't know if you know any like this, I was the rear of the classroom guy. I was the guy who sat in the back. I was Mr. Bruin guy. I was the guy who came in, Daily Bruin, reading it. Now, when it came to getting in the way of soccer balls, I had no problems. But I struggled in the classroom because, after all, this is UCLA, right? This is one of the foremost universities, one of the top educational palaces in all of the world. This is not some buyer degree, walk out the door like they have over there by the Coliseum. I'll tell you how committed I am to this role today. Our owner went to USC, and I just hammered her school. But eventually, I figured it out. Eventually, I figured out what life was for me. And really, what was interesting was I was a sports guy trying to be an intellectual, and what I found was I could be in sports and apply the intellectual powers that I had. And along the way, I learned some lessons. And for the next hour and a half, I'm going to share those lessons with you. Lesson number 1, and this is where we get serious, gang. Lesson number 1, don't be afraid to fail.
Good one.
Don't be afraid to fail. I'm going to tell you a story, and hang with me here. I know this one might want to put you to sleep, but hang with me on this story. I told you I was a soccer player, and in 1982, and I wasn't bad. In 1982, the folks from U.S. Soccer came to me and they knocked on my door and they said, Tim, you know what, you're not a bad soccer player. We'd like you to start training with and traveling with the group that will become the '84 Olympic team. Who's going to say no to that? An opportunity for free travel and to represent your country. So between all of '82 and most of '83, I traveled the world with the U.S. team. It was an amazing experience. I got to see places that I would never pay to go to, but I was able to apply my sociological background and understand some of the experience I was having. About fall of '83, they came and they said, Tim, you know what? You've done a good job. We want you to be the goalkeeper for the '84 Olympic team, but what it involves after your fall season at UCLA, you need to drop out of school and come into residency with the team full time. Of course I would do that. Who wouldn't do that? But I was leaving UCLA, and I dropped out, and we went into residency. Well, right about that time, there began a movement within the International Olympic Committee circles to try and allow professional players to play in the Olympics, including soccer. And that movement went through with about a month to go before the start of the games, and with about 3 weeks to go before the start of the games, myself and all of my teammates who were college players were all let go. And these are the games are in LA. My parents have purchased tickets. My family's ready to go. My community all knows. And my dream has been ruined. And I was gutted. And I have to tell you, over the next few weeks, there has never been a bigger pity party than was thrown by the one that I had. But at one point, I woke up and I said, you know, if making the Olympic team and playing in the '84 Olympics at 23 years old is going to be the pinnacle of what I do in life, and everything else after that is downhill, then I'm not really living a life, am I? And I decided at that point, I wasn't going to let it define me. I wasn't going to let that define me. And I stopped thinking I was a failure, and I started thinking I just didn't reach my goal. So create new ones. Create new ones. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you aren't failing occasionally, you're not risking. And if you're not risking, you're not trying. And if you're not trying, what's the point? What's the point, right? But what is risking? It's a tough one to understand. To me, risking is just an edgier word for dreaming, and dreaming big. So I encourage you, don't be afraid to fail, but I want you to dream big. And I want you to dream out loud. You know, I sit in front of young people a lot of times. They come before me because they're interested in working for the Lakers, and I'll often ask them, what do you want to do when you grow up? And almost all of them don't have an answer. And I don't believe it. I think they have an answer, but they're not willing to tell me because they're not willing to dream out loud. They're not willing to dream out loud. So here's what I challenge you to do. After today is done and the gowns are put away and you're all off with your friends at a quilting bee, what I want you to do is I want you to turn to your best friend. I want you to turn to a family member. I want you to say a sentence that starts with, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, and I want you to fill in the blank. I want you to fill in the blank, and I make it big. Because you know what happens when you dream out loud? It's a strange thing. The world listens. The world has a tendency to listen when you dream out loud. Lesson number 2. Give me a show of hands of how many of you took Sociology 1. Give me a show of hands how many of you took Statistics. How fun was Statistics, right? Well, you may not know it, but you were all enrolled in a class the entire time you were here at UCLA called Relationships 101. All of you were enrolled whether you wanted it or not. And if you paid attention during your time here, you formed relationships, personal and professional. You created an inner circle that will ultimately matter. These are the people who show up for you and who you show up for. Your most trusted friends. Cherish them. Help them. Ask them for help. Because you know what? These relationships, they can open doors. They can help get your kids jobs. They can get you a job. They can help you keep a job. In a little while, you're going to come up here and you're going to be handed a piece of paper. And you're going to walk out of here with 2 things. That piece of paper and those relationships. And it's debatable which is more important. It's debatable. I know which is more expensive. But it's debatable which one is more important because they're both important. And you combine them, and you all are world beaters. So cultivate those relationships because they can be loving, lifelong, and completely affirming. My last lesson I'll share with you, and then I'll get out of your way. And this one's maybe the most important. And this comes from the Tim Harris Do As I Say, Not As I Do book, because I'm horrible at this. I'm admittedly horrible at this. Under our roof at home, I'm reminded of it constantly, and I need to heed this myself. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say you're not going to remember every day you spend on earth. But I'm equally going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say you'll remember today. You know, it's interesting, when you all were younger, all these poignant memories, these important things you do, we celebrated them constantly. When you go on the big boy potty for the first time, you get an M&M. Draw your first picture, we celebrate you. You're in the play as a first grader, we celebrate you. But as you get older and you start thinking about it, those memories, those important moments, the distance between them gets greater, doesn't it? And you know what we do, and you know what we've become? We start looking beyond. Some of you aren't even here right now. Some of you are thinking about your meter, turning your robe in, moving out of your apartment. because you're not here. You need to relish these memories when they come along and grab hold of them. I'll give you my last story. In 2000, the Lakers hadn't been to the finals in quite a long time. And we went to the finals, and this is the Shaq Kobe team, and we were doing quite well. And we captured the title, and we did it at home. And when the final buzzer went and the confetti was coming on the floor, I was on the floor to make sure that we did what we had to do. You got to get the media on, you got to get the stage on, you got to get the commissioner down, you got to find the trophy, get the owner down, get the hats and caps and t-shirts out to everyone. You got to do all these things. And as I was running around doing this hand grabbed my arm. And I turned around and it was our coach, Phil Jackson. And in that deep Phil Jackson voice, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Coach, I got to get the trophy and the stage and the owner and the commissioner and the hats and the t-shirts." And he said, I know, that stuff will get done. But stop for a moment and look around. Stop for a moment and look around and experience what's taking place right now. Because this is your life and it doesn't happen very often. Now, of course, little would we know that over the next 10 years it'd happen 4 more times. But what his point was important. We have to stop sometimes when we're having an important moment in our life and recognize it and own it. Burn it into your soul. I'm going to ask you to do an exercise. I'm going to ask everybody to do it. Close your eyes, please. Close your eyes. I want you all to picture the person who graduates today and picture them as they were when they arrived. Complete with insecurities, uncertainties. Where do I park? Where do I eat? Will I make friends? How do I study? Where are the books? Unsure, completely unsure. Thrive? Heck, we didn't know if we'd survive. Now open your eyes. Take in this moment. Look around. Look at your friends. Look at this setting. Look at this day. And embrace this into your soul. Because this is one of those moments, guys. This is one of those moments. I want you to think for a minute how you risked coming here. You risked failure. But you didn't fail, did you? You succeeded. That's right. You succeeded and you will succeed again. I want you to think for a moment of the friends that you've made. And maybe the friends that have passed along and are no longer with you today. I want you to think about them and those lessons that you learned. Take pride in all of that and own it. You won't be here again. You won't have this day again. But it's a day that you will remember, I promise. So burn it into your soul. You know what? I won't have this day either. I won't have this day again either. But because of your generosity and your invitation to allow me to join you, I'm indebted to all of you forever because this is an important day for me now. Thank you. Thank you all for letting me take a part in this, and congratulations, class of 2017.